All right, our first story tonight is what's on everyone's mind these days, and that's taxes. An editorial in the New York Times really got our attention because it advocates opening the door to a brand new wave of taxes never used in this country before, like the VAT tax. 77% of Americans saw their taxes go up this month, and it may be just the beginning. Here to talk about what it would mean to you and to our economy is today's Money Power panel. We've got Peter Schiff. He is the Chief Global Strategist with Euro-Pacific Capital. My favorite Professor Charles Lipson is back from the University of Chicago. And Spencer Patton, Chief Investment Officer at Steel Vine Investments, is here as well. Guys, what do you think? I mean, you open the New York Times, and they're just opening the door to a whole new wave of taxes. I mean, there's the carbon tax, the VAT tax. Peter, you look so excited. Are you thrilled about this? Is it a great idea?
Well, first of all, I got bad news for the middle class. If you want all this government, then you have to pay for it. And the truth is, if we don't slash government spending, then we have to raise taxes on the middle class. But, the problem is there's no guarantee that the higher taxes will go to reduce the deficit. The government might just spend it. Look, They already blew. We just raised taxes on the rich, the top 1%. And all the money has already been spent on relief aid for Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Professor Lipson, I mean, what do you think? I mean, you think if we give them more money, they're just going to spend it, or you think that they're going to actually sit down and pay their bills?
I'd say America's too fat already.
That was good. Not too fat, but too VAT. I love it.
Too fat already. I think that that it's exactly right. What's the marginal expenses from a marginal dollar of taxes raised? Is it less than $1? I would say about 3 years out, it will be more than $1. So if you raise $1 in tax revenues from higher taxes actually from anything, I expect that what will happen is that $1 will be spent, and it's not just a guess. In Illinois, we raised state income taxes about 75% 3 years ago, 3 years ago. We spent all that money. Look at the states around the United States with high taxes. Do any of them have big budget surpluses?
No, nobody does right now. Spencer, let me ask you, because I want to make sure everyone knows that VAT is a value-added tax. It means that everywhere along the way you just add on a little something for the government. It basically ends up really hitting lower income and middle class people the most because on the margin, it's a larger percent of their income. What do you think it means for the economy if we add a value-added tax to everything we all go out and do and buy?
Oh, it's a disaster. I mean, anytime that you're charging the consumer more to go to the government, you're going to have a serious issue with a government that has no control over its balance sheet. I find it so interesting that, the Occupy Wall Street movement was all about the 1% and how they were the problem. And now you've heard President Obama speaking lately about how we're going to tax the top 2%, and you're seeing that number grow. I would bet my left arm that by the end of his presidency, we're going to be talking about the top 5% or the top 10%. And that number is going to keep growing because the problem with socialism and those type nanny state beliefs is that you're going to see running out of other people's money. That's the problem. You can't.
That's kind of what always happens in the end. Peter, let me ask you, why is a value-added tax a bad idea? Because to a lot of people, it might just sound like another sales tax, and we have sales tax everywhere. It's a pain in the neck, but it doesn't seem to be that big of a problem. Why is a value-added tax not a good idea?
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea if it replaces the income tax. I think it's better to raise taxes through consumption than by taxing savings, income, and investment.
What are the odds they're going to give up the income tax in order to put into place a value-added tax? There's no way that's
the case. It's going to be on top of the income tax. And that's going to be the problem is we're growing government instead of addressing the real problem, which is spending. And, President Obama says he wants to protect the middle class from higher taxes. Well, the only way to do that is to protect them from bigger government because the middle class has to pay for big government. And right now, because we're running these huge deficits, the Federal Reserve creates all kinds of inflation to monetize those deficits. And that's a tax on average Americans who see the price of food go up, the price of gasoline go up. Prices are rising because of big government and the inflation that is used to finance it.
Professor Lipson, what about a carbon tax? That sounds to a lot of people like big companies and polluters and people that are using carbon are going to be the ones that have to pay the tax, and it wouldn't impact all of us. What impact would it have on the average person, and what about the economy?
I think that what Peter was saying was exactly right. You can look at these taxes individually, and you could say that some of them would be a good idea on their own basis. For example, a VAT or a carbon tax might, on their own basis, be a good tax. The problem is, if they pile on top of others, then they're a problem. Why is a carbon tax potentially a good tax? Because of what are called externalities. Carbon imposes a lot of costs on other people, and instead of indirect taxes, cafe standards for cars and so forth, the easiest thing to do, the simplest thing to do, is to just in effect make gas more expensive. But the problem is, these things just become revenue streams.
Right.
And one more thing about the carbon taxes, what they do is they often, by grandfathering in current polluters, they're a giant giveaway to the friends of the current administration.
That's a great point that no one talks about. That's a great point because people get grandfathered in. Now, clearly we could spend all night on this, but